Dr. Stoner injected snake genes into his assistant's body. He wanted to change his assistant's DNA. His clueless assistant thought it was just a regular vaccine. But soon, strange things began happening. First, his skin started peeling off, just like a snake shedding its skin. Then scales began growing all over his body. Eventually, he transformed into a terrifying half-human, half-snake monster. But Dr. Stoner wasn't satisfied yet. His real goal was to completely turn humans into snakes. Stoner sold this failed experiment cheaply to a traveling carnival. The monster's realistic appearance attracted countless curious visitors. No one knew this creature wasn't wearing a costume at all. Tim desperately wanted to cry for help, but he couldn't speak. He was forced to become a money-making attraction for the carnival owner. Meanwhile, Stoner began looking for his next target. He visited a college, pretending he needed a new assistant. There, he met his old friend, biology teacher Dr. Daniels. He asked Daniels to recommend a student. Daniels was confused. He knew Stoner already had an assistant named Tim. He asked why Stoner needed a replacement, but Stoner lied, saying Tim had quit. Daniels didn't think too much about it. He quickly recommended a student named David. David loved biology and was thrilled about the opportunity. Right after class, he eagerly went home with Stoner. When David saw Stoner's beautiful daughter, Christina, he felt even luckier. But David had no idea this would become the biggest mistake of his life. Stoner took David into his lab and introduced his research. Stoner mainly studied snakes. To show their danger level, each snake cage had a color-coded label. Green meant non-venomous, yellow meant venomous, and red meant highly venomous. Fortunately, most venomous snakes had an antidote. If bitten, timely injection of the anti-venom would save lives. Then Stoner brought out an African black mamba and showed David how to feed it. The black mamba's venom was incredibly deadly. Just a single drop could kill 10 adults. It was also the fastest snake on Earth. If bitten and without antivenom, a person would die within an hour. The symptoms would look exactly like a heart attack. After hearing Stoner's explanation, David wasn't scared at all. Instead, he eagerly wanted to start working immediately. But Stoner told him that he needed to take an anti-snakebite vaccine first. Combined with the antivenom, it guaranteed 100% safety from snake accidents. Without hesitation, David agreed to the injection. Little did he know, he had unknowingly become Stoner's next experiment. The vaccine was actually a genetic potion made from a king cobra. As David got his injection, Stoner casually introduced the king cobra. It was probably the deadliest creature on Earth, even more venomous than the black mamba. If bitten, there wouldn't even be enough time to use antivenom. Yet, even this deadly snake had a natural enemy, honey badger. To a honey badger, a king cobra was just an ordinary meal. Later, during dinner, the injection started taking effect. David suddenly felt dizzy and weak. Stoner lied, saying this was just a normal reaction to the vaccine. With Christina's help, he guided David to bed. While sleeping, David felt unbearably hot. He didn't wake up until the next morning. When David finally woke up, he noticed a crowd outside the house. Stoner was holding his regular snake handling performance, which attracted townspeople. Today's highlight was capturing a king cobra bare-handed. Although experienced, Stoner still felt nervous. One bite, and it could end terribly. Just when success seemed within reach, a man in the crowd suddenly took a flash photo. The distraction almost got Stoner bitten. Fortunately, he managed to finish the performance safely, and even collected venom from the king cobra. The thrilling show earned enthusiastic applause from the crowd. It also brought in a nice sum of money, and that's exactly how Stoner funded his unusual experiments. But a few days later, David woke up and noticed something weird. His face had started peeling. Panicked, he rushed to find Stoner for answers. Stoner calmly treated his skin and said peeling was just a normal reaction to the vaccine. He told David not to worry. It meant the vaccine was working, but David also started feeling unusually cold. Hearing this, Stoner casually suggested he put on a jacket. David had no idea he was slowly becoming a cold-blooded creature. Meanwhile, since Stoner's previous assistant Tim had mysteriously disappeared, Tim's family had already called the police. 2 officers quickly came by the house to question Stoner. Stoner calmly told them Tim had quit his job long ago. Then he confidently showed the officers around his lab. Inside, Christina was busy taming a large python. The helpful officers even assisted her, carrying the snake down into the basement. After a quick look around and some basic questions, the officers found nothing suspicious and soon left. The moment the police were gone, Stoner immediately returned to his lab to give David another vaccine injection. He told David these injections would continue daily for a whole month. After that, David could officially join his research. As David spent more time with Christina, he began developing feelings for her. Christina clearly felt the same way. She obviously had no clue what her father had been doing to David. One day, while out together, they finally became a couple. They even spent time happily playing around in the river. On their way home, they saw the traveling carnival performing nearby. After exploring for a bit, they became interested in the Carnival's monster show. The Carnival owner advertised a real-life snake man, insisting it wasn't fake. Christina was convinced it was all a scam and refused to go inside. But David was curious and bought a ticket without hesitation. Inside, there were lots of weird creatures, but they were clearly fake people in costumes. Only the snake man seemed strangely realistic. David moved closer for a better look and felt something wasn't right. Even the snake man's eyes looked exactly like a real snake's. He was about to tell Christina but noticed she was being bothered by a local bully named Steve. Without warning, Steve shoved David roughly, then kicked him hard. David didn't hesitate and attacked Steve, but their size difference was too great. David was losing badly. Desperate, David suddenly bit Steve hard. Steve yelled in pain and quickly let go. The police soon arrived and put an end to the fight. But just as the two got home, Steve, still holding a grudge, quickly followed behind. When he saw Christina's figure in the second-floor bedroom, Steve immediately had a nasty idea. He climbed up the outer wall and reached the window, planning to do something terrible to Christina. But he didn't notice the huge python on the table. In a flash, it wrapped tightly around his arm. Steve panicked and fell straight from the second floor. Luckily, he wasn't badly hurt, but sadly, he beat the python to death. Stone and David arrived just in time to witness this scene. Steve angrily called them a bunch of freaks and quickly rode away on his motorcycle. Christina was heartbroken over the python's death. It had been her favorite pet. The next day, the three cremated the python, but Stone secretly vowed revenge against Steve. He quietly returned to his lab, grabbed the deadly black mamba, and put it in his bag. When night fell, he drove off to Steve's house. Meanwhile, Steve was in his room with his girlfriend Kitty, unaware that danger was approaching. Soon, Stone arrived downstairs, just in time to see Kitty leaving the house. After Kitty drove away, Stone silently sneaked into Steve's home. Finding Steve in the shower, he quickly released the black mamba into the bathroom. Steve barely realized something was wrong before the snake bit his foot. After struggling for a moment, Steve became completely still. Stone calmly collected the snake and left, feeling satisfied. Meanwhile, David and Christina secretly met up behind Stone's back. When Stone returned home and saw the scattered clothes, he immediately understood what had happened. Taking the clothes to Christina's room, he confronted her. He didn't object to her dating, but he definitely didn't want her with David. After all, only Stone knew David's body was changing, and something horrible might soon happen. Christina questioned him, but Stone hesitated and chose to keep quiet. They argued fiercely, but the next morning David noticed his body becoming even stranger. Scales had already begun appearing on his arm. Christina wanted to check on him, but Stone blocked her at the door, lying that the vaccine was in its final adjustment phase and David shouldn't be disturbed. To ensure his experiment could continue uninterrupted, Stone deliberately sent Christina on an errand, asking her to drive into town to pick up a shipment of venomous snakes arriving from overseas. Without suspecting anything, Christina got in the car and drove away. But just after Christina left, Stone immediately went to David's room. Holding a bottle of medicine, he told David to drink it, claiming it would ease his symptoms. David was reluctant, but he feared his condition would get worse. So he chose to trust Stone. But after drinking the medicine, David didn't feel better at all. Instead, his stomach hurt terribly, as if all his organs were twisting together. He wanted to go to the hospital, but Stone wouldn't allow it. Stone quickly gave him another injection. Just then, they heard a car outside. Afraid of being exposed, Stone hurried out to check. It was Daniels, the biology teacher. He had the day off after attending a student's funeral, so he wanted to drop by and see David. The student who had died was Steve, killed by Stone. Everyone thought Steve died of a heart attack, completely unaware that Stone was the killer. Daniels wanted a quick visit with David, but Stone repeatedly came up with excuses to keep him out of the house. Having no choice, Daniels finally left, but as he drove away, he felt more and more suspicious. He decided to secretly return through the back hill to find out what was going on. Unfortunately for Daniels, Stone spotted him sneaking around the lab. Determined to protect his secret, Stone grabbed a heavy metal weight and silently followed Daniels. As Daniels approached the lab window, he clearly saw David inside, but David had already completely transformed into something terrifying. Before Daniels could react, Stone knocked him out from behind. Seeing this, David was terrified, but his new body made it impossible for him to run away. Poor Daniels was dragged to the basement, where Stone chained him up. Even facing death, Daniels warned Stone he'd expose his twisted experiments. But Stone wasn't interested in his threats. He simply left the basement and let his huge python handle the rest. When Stone returned, Daniels had been swallowed whole. Meanwhile, Christina finally arrived at the shipping office, only to learn there was no package from overseas. When Christina called Stone about it, he lied again, saying the shipment might just be late, and told her to wait a bit longer. Hearing Christina loved snakes, one employee suggested she visit the carnival. He mentioned a half-human, half-snake creature at the freak show, saying it was the most realistic snake man he'd ever seen. Intrigued by his description, Christina decided to go see it for herself. But when Christina finally arrived, the carnival had already closed for the night. The owner told her to come back tomorrow, but Christina didn't want her trip to be wasted. So, when no one was looking, she sneaked inside. The moment she saw the snake man, Christina froze in shock. She instantly recognized him. It was Tim, her father's former assistant. Christina finally understood everything. Her father had been secretly experimenting on people. Thinking about her father's strange behavior and David's recent changes, she realized David was also one of her father's victims. Before the carnival owner could catch her, Christina quickly ran back to her car and sped home. Meanwhile, Steve's girlfriend, Kitty, went to the police. She believed Steve's death wasn't an accident. The night he died, Steve had told Kitty about the snake attack and how he killed a python. This made Kitty suspect the Stone family was involved. At first, the police didn't believe her, but soon after, they received another call, this time from Daniel's family. They reported that Daniels hadn't returned home after visiting Stone's house. All the clues pointed to Stone, forcing the police to suspect him too. They immediately headed to his house. At that moment, Stone was busy in his lab. He had David strapped to a table, giving him another injection, mumbling strange things under his breath. Stone told David he should feel lucky, because he was becoming a new kind of human, the greatest evolutionary advancement in history. He claimed David could now survive no matter how harsh the environment became. By then, David couldn't speak anymore, and had no way to resist Stone's madness. Suddenly, under Stone's astonished gaze, David began his final transformation. First, his head slowly turned into a snake's head, then his legs fused together into a tail. Finally, his whole body became that of a snake. Stone's plan wasn't just to create a new species. He turned David completely into a giant king cobra. To test David's fighting skills, Stone released another king cobra from its cage, planning a one-on-one snake showdown. But before the fight even started, Stone was bitten by the second cobra. The venom quickly spread through his body, and without any anti-venom ready, Stone soon died. Though the snake battle didn't happen, a more exciting fight was brewing in the lab. David, now a huge cobra, was slithering everywhere. The honey badger couldn't sit still anymore, and somehow broke free from its cage, charging straight toward David. Meanwhile, Christina finally arrived home, only to find her father's lifeless body on the floor. The king cobra was still there, and it immediately lunged at Christina. Thankfully, the police arrived just in time and shot the snake dead. Remembering David was still inside, Christina hurried into the lab, but when she entered, she found David getting beaten up by the honey badger. To her surprise, despite his powerful transformation, David was still no match for the honey badger.